So Netflix CEO Reed Hastings has suggested that Netflix is not in the quote-unquote truth to power business, that corporation is an entertainment company and has no responsibility or desire to actually be a force that speaks truth to the powerful even when that's needed. That's not what Netflix is in the business of doing. And this is all coming to a head because recently there was an episode of Hassan Minhaj's show, The Patriot Act, which focused on human rights abuses and other issues in Saudi Arabia. And it was strongly critical of the Saudi Arabian leadership, including Mohammed bin Salman, the leader of that country, and what he's doing to be a barrier to progress in that nation. And unsurprisingly, Saudi Arabia did not take too kindly to that episode, asked Netflix to remove the episode, and Netflix complied. A lot of people felt that was a wrong decision, however, and they felt that Netflix should be standing up against powerful forces that abuse human rights, that curtail democracy, that dehumanize many people who are marginalized within and beyond Saudi Arabia's borders, and that Netflix has to do a lot more to show that social responsibility. Netflix, however, feels that they don't have that social responsibility. They're not a truth to power company. But here's the thing. I think that technically they're right, but this is bad for the image of Netflix, 100%. Look, at the end of the day, Netflix, just like any other capitalist organization, has one goal above all, and that's to make profit. And Netflix, as a publicly traded corporation, on stock markets, has a primary objective of increasing the value of its shareholders. And anything that can be seen, accurately or not, as risking that shareholder value needs to be put to the wayside, whether it's politically inconvenient things or controversial things. Promoting that content, if it endangers the value of the shareholders, is something that Netflix CEO should not do under the rubric of understanding capitalism. But Netflix also has this image of a company that produces thought-provoking content, that produces content and airs content that often doesn't get aired on traditional broadcast media, of course, but even on TV cable. That there are some shows that are on Netflix that wouldn't really be allowed to be shown on other media. There are some topics they cover that are very controversial. There are documentaries that they have produced and aired that take controversial positions on controversial issues. That's a good thing, that Netflix is showcasing these really important ideas, these really important creators, and has been this location for really important discussions. Look, whatever you think of the 2014 film The Interview by Franco and Rogan, which, sort of poked fun at the North Korean regime, Netflix took a risk in a sense by airing that. Many theaters wouldn't show it. Other media outlets wouldn't show it. It was seen as too controversial. It was seen as dangerous. There were threats or perceived threats against anybody who would air that movie. And Netflix, regardless of that, aired that film. That film, in a sense, speaks truth to power as it pertains to the North Korean regime. And so when Hassan Minhaj, one of the bright, fresh voices on Netflix, put together an episode of the Patriot Act, which was a fair-minded and well-researched criticism of Saudi Arabia and its leadership, Netflix should have in no way allowed the Saudi Arabian regime to remove that episode. That is a direct rebuke of what Netflix has historically had as its brand, and it's a big shot against a show by Hassan Minhaj that is predicated, I feel, on speaking truth to power, whether it's Justin Trudeau, or whether it's Mohammed bin Salman, or whether it's corporations, or whether it's Donald Trump. Hassan Minhaj's show is really about speaking truth to power, or the occasional episode about how sneakers are cool. But in any case, it's really about speaking that truth and doing so in a well-researched and fair-minded way that's also hilarious as hell. Like, that's that show. And when you take down this episode, yes, even though you're only taking it down in Saudi Arabia, you dilute the meaning of that show. So I think this is a really bad move for Netflix. Netflix, of course, as a publicly traded corporation within a capitalist framework, of course, is not about speaking truth to power. Netflix says here that we're not in the news business. But if we're being honest, most news organizations don't speak truth to power either. Most news organizations are owned by the power. They speak for the power. They speak lies for power, not truth to power. Netflix had a countercultural image in some ways that gave it more credibility on some issues than mainstream media. And when they say things like this, they sort of blow that credibility. But I think this is also an important moment because this takes the mask off Netflix a little bit. It was seen as such a cool, progressive, in some ways transgressive company that really tried to shake things up. Not just in how it, tore down the cable model, and not just in how it, made some really exciting new shows, but in how it showcased certain programming that really did speak against, the traditional ways of doing things in media and beyond it. And when they say things like this, it really hurts that image. But it's also helpful to people because now you've had it said to you that Netflix and other companies like it don't really have a vested interest in fundamentally challenging the status quo. They just don't. In some cases, they will do it. In some cases, coincidentally, or when it's profitable, they will do it. But at the end of the day, profit is the first and foremost concern for a company like Netflix and for other media companies. So don't lean on them to be your progressive microphone. Don't lean on them to reflect your progressive values. Know that when push comes to shove, when really the chips are down, they will side with regressive forces if those forces tend to bring them more profit and more corporate credibility.